You are watching
They
Xirtus.
discuss specifically the patents, and then Sal discloses some information that has not been public before, as he states that he didn't sign an NDA on it. And it's, I think you specifically, Mr. Reese, are going to appreciate it.
Awesome. Let's check it out.
A great man, a man that shall be remembered by history, for he deserves to be remembered by history. He is a man of great integrity. I was able to present. I went to the blackboard. I would, forget this dry erase board and stuff. To the blackboard, a piece of chalk in my mouth. In my mouth. Yeah, actually, I held it in my mouth for a little while. But anyway, in my hand, I actually went to the blackboard, put down Maxwell's equations, the four equations, four unknown. So again, Heaviside version of Maxwell's equations. And from there, I was able
I'll
to
pause that again
derive
for a sec, Jeremy.
what is
I,
understood as the Pais effect. Once he saw
a key fact that he just states is the four known Maxwell equations. Thus, there must and obviously are more equations of Maxwell that are also known, but only to after you just like sign an NDA, probably, or something like that.
I know from my college education, I did Griffiths and Jeffermenko, both. I got both of them for electromagnetism. So if people are familiar with those two textbooks on this is what they teach in the colleges. And they say that, the four Maxwell's equations, they teach you the differential and the integral form of them. There are two different forms. One uses the gradient operators and vector multiplication, like the cross and dot products, right? And the other one uses integrals over spaces, so like flux equations. But they all rely on something called the continuity equation in order for them to all make sense. And that's like there's no that says the continuity equation says that there's no extra charge or energies from anywhere else coming in or out of the equation. It's just the same the same amount of energy going through the surface on one. The amount of energy that went into a surface on one side is the same amount that's coming in out of that loop on the other side. And it's this J term, which is like a loop integral around the current, where all the current's going through in any of the Maxwell's equations.
But obviously, also a lot of people would just point at Maxwell and forget, like, Heaviside did a really important reinterpretation of Maxwell's formulas in like 1870s, and so I think that's also, it could be more that these are Heaviside equations as well.
Yeah, but you have to look at the whole where Maxwell got all this stuff from, because one of the equations of Maxwell's equations is Faraday's law, right?
Right.
One of them's Ampere's law. So all these guys, John Faraday and Ampere, the French guy, all these dudes were messing around with electricity in the 1700s and figured this shit out first. And they just kind of wrote down their interpretation of this all. And then Maxwell came along and said, well, if we just, kind of say everything's this vector fields, and we use this formalism, the formalism of vector fields, then we kind of get around this problem. And then that led to like tensor calculus, because it's like, oh, well, there's these things called tensors where each vector is there's a vector at every point in the equation, and it's a different value at every point, right? That's kind of like so that led to a lot of the calculus was essential for like building all this framework, like the understanding the differentials in space and the relation between space and time, because it's relativistic what's going on with the charges, and how moving a charge through space creates a magnetic field just by simply just transporting the charge. It's a relativistic effect. So there's definitely, like he said, it goes back to 1895. Yeah, so this is like understanding Maxwell's equations has gotten us a lot of engineering. We do a lot of our, all our engineers that currently work for all these companies are building stuff with that math.
So
It
I
works.
watched
Oh.
these two AIs discuss Maxwell's equations and free energy the other day, and it blew my mind when they brought up that part of Maxwell's missing equations was that he fully believed in what they called the ether then, and in a couple minutes here, Sal Pius calls it like quantum something, some new technical term, but says they're essentially the same. But the two AIs were saying that the key part of Maxwell's whole system was connecting electric fields and magnetism together through the ether, and that he was using the ether and had equations with the ether. Sorry, kind of choked on my words there, but it's very
Right. Well, this is also like, it was everyone kind of took the ether for granted, I feel like, until the 20th century, and then really particularly with the Michelson-Morley experiment, kind of just throwing ether out of the equations and pretending that we just have enough answers with relativity. But that's also led to quantum physics, nanophysics, all these ideas that are saying that physics isn't a unified theory. We cannot have a unified theory of physics without ether. I feel like that's kind of problematic.
And what they replaced with dark energy and dark matter. It's all
Right, because
essentially
it's
the same thing. Yeah, it's another term for it. All right, I'll shut up, and you want to play a little bit more, Jeremy?
Well, another thing I'll talk about that is worth mentioning is something called the retarded time. And the retarded time is
I had a retarded time last night. No, I'm just kidding.
in the Heaviside-Feynman formula. This is like basically if you have things moving at the speed of light, how do you plot the field from them, because they're moving so fast. So if you have charges that are moving really, really fast, then it gets really complicated trying to plot where they actually are, because by the time the signal of what that charge reaches the observer, it's changed position already. So, and that position change and the time it takes for that, it's like we're just seeing the light from the sun 8 minutes ago, so we're on 8-minute retarded time. That's basically how it goes. But anyways, yeah,
There we are.
Asking this, but you're just answering it. Keep going. Keep
The
going. Don't let me stop you.
the third arch in the triarchy of sentience. Remember, the first two arches really are based on, let's say, unlimited computing power coupled with vector databases. So we're talking about in such a way that the computer or the AI agent no longer has the ability, or rather restricted ability, to hallucinate. But the third arch culminates in what I think would be the transition from a regular AI agent to possibly an artificial general intelligence agent with adaptive prompt, targeted prompt engineering. Quite possibly singularity level could be achieved. But anyway, I'm not going to drive it there. What I will drive it at is, if the AI agent is able to generate an original concept, preferably in physics, then can be experimentally verified, validated against known data. That particular AI agent, in my opinion, has, if not developed, achieved a certain level of sentience. So I do believe AGI at that particular level is considerable. AGI status.